Hello and welcome to Funny Science Fiction, the live edition. Welcome to Funny Science Fiction Podcast, the live edition. We're so glad to have you guys here tonight. We just want to remind you that our podcast is the podcast that makes members of the Big Bang Theory regret that they wasted 12 years entertaining nerds.
I don't know about regret, Tim, because that's still a great show.
No, it's a great show. They just regret that they entertained us. Otherwise they're fine. It's a great show. I enjoy it thoroughly, but especially on HBO Max right now. It's had a good run, so you can get on there. All 12 seasons of nerdiness and comic book fun. But so before we
hating of Will Wheaton,
yes. There's a whole story there, and if you haven't caught on to there are Will Wheaton issues, you need to go back a few episodes of our live show. It's pretty well laid out. We're done. But before we get into tonight's entertainment, we need to say thanks to our show partner. So we want to do that very quickly. We have a quick video here from River City Tees, and of course, Level Up Lightsabers. So let's play a quick video for each. With over 700 designs to choose from, River City Tees has something for everyone. Need some new nerd merch? River City Tees has you covered. Need funny or sarcastic designs? River City Tees has you covered. Are you looking for a new logo or custom design? Whether you need 1 or 100, River City Tees has you covered. With multiple colors and options for each and every design. With things to choose from like shirts, hoodies, phone cases, coffee mugs, and so much more. Be sure to follow River City Tees on Facebook and Instagram. If you do, you'll get the latest on designs and information about upcoming sales. River City Tees. Let's make a shirt together. And then, of course, the coolest lightsaber video you're going to watch today. Here's a video from our other show partner, Level Up Lightsabers. Still love that video.
It's amazing.
Still haven't gotten sick of it. I still like watching it. I watch it even when we're not doing the show, just because I'm like, lightsabers. So anyway.
I am having a bad day. How can I make myself feel better? Lightsabers.
I'll watch a lightsaber video. Let me see a laser sword. It's a good day. So, all right. Let's bring our guests in.
All right, our guests tonight are an award-winning couple of bona fide comic book geeks and some downright funny folks. Let's welcome Brad and Lisa from Comic Book Couples Counseling.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, this is thrilled to be here. Not used to being live, so get ready for some
wild and crazy antics.
Yeah,
maybe, perhaps.
Really
I felt
funny
like
things.
by saying we were funny, you sold us too hard, and now the stake is so high.
Well, we also call ourselves funny, so our low is a very low bar.
The threshold was low. You guys are clearing the threshold already.
Okay.
Don't worry, you're okay.
Fine.
All right.
If you're clearing our threshold, which was painstakingly low, so
we found you very charming thus far.
So yeah, you guys are going to do just great.
4 minutes, you'll be okay.
You're going to do just great. So Brad and Lisa, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. So folks at home, for those playing the at-home version of Funny Science Fiction, you can see Lisa doing the sideways shimmy off the camera because the way that they're set up. Yeah, well, the way that they're set up is that they only have room for one. And frankly, she didn't want to intimidate Kathleen with her awesome beauty. So,
I really, really appreciate not having that competition. It's hard enough to compete with Nick's mustache. That's why I have the extra hair. I can compete that way.
So before
Tim,
we jump in, yes, sir.
You're not wearing your podcasting hat.
I am not. I got sick of it. If you would have been on last week's live, you would have noticed that, Nick. Thank you very much.
If you pay attention,
I got sick of messing with that head. I always feel like I'm pulling it back down because my headphones kind of do the slide back, and then it pulls it up, and then I'm pulling it down, then it pulls it back. It's a whole thing, and I got tired of it.
And you have to be careful because you might just rub all of your hair off doing that. And then
I don't think that's going to happen.
And I don't think you would that.
No, you don't want to see this bald. That wouldn't be good. So before we jump into our topic for the night, I don't know what that was, but that was awesome.
There's just a lot of side-eye going on over there.
But before we jump into tonight's topic and our scheduled silliness, can we talk about comic book couples counseling? Tell us, how did it get started and what you guys do on your show so that our audience can figure out why they need to be subscribing to your show.
So Comic Book Couples Counseling is a podcast hosted by me and Lisa. You've met us already. We're a husband and wife duo. We've been married for 13 years. Going on 14 years.
Going on forever.
Going on forever. Yeah, going on forever. And what we do at Comic Book Couples Counseling is we take a comic book couple. We started with Scott Summers and Jean Grey of the Uncanny X-Men, and we pair them with a self-help guide. With that first episode, we paired them with the 5 love languages. And we go over usually about 4 episodes, 4 story arcs, getting to know that couple, and in analyzing their romantic woes through the lens of whatever self-help guide, it helps us better understand that couple, but also helps us better understand ourselves.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Is that good?
That was very good, sweetheart.
So yeah, and we started 2 years ago. It was a podcast that we had talked about a lot. And we kept saying like, oh yeah, we should do that someday. We should do that someday. And then eventually Lisa's like, we should do that today. And I was like, I guess we do another podcast called In the Mouth of Darkness. And we had all the equipment, so that we should just hit record on this other idea. And we've been doing it for 2 years. And
we're now coming up on our 100th episode.
2 episodes away.
Dropping right now we're doing a series on the Fantastic Four, and we're using this help guru, one of my personal faves, Gretchen Rubin, and her 4 tendencies.
Yeah.
I was actually checking out that episode today.
Oh, wonderful.
It's the Sue and Reed are 2 of my favorite comic book couples characters, and those first 6 issues was what we just covered, the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff. And that's a wild era, an important era, and relationship wise, it's Reed does a lot of dismissing of Sue, and he's really lucky she stuck around.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. So one more question about your podcast. I have to know your intro. Did you guys do that, or did you get somebody to do that for you? Because that's fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. Actually, that was all me and GarageBand. Our intro music is an a cappella version of the 90s X-Men cartoon theme.
Yes, it is.
And my mom is just super stoked that I'm using my master's degree in vocal performance for something.
Hey.
Yep.
That is a cool thing to have a master's degree in.
Why, thank you. So in that one arrangement, you get to hear the totality of my range. It goes from almost like a E3 to a C6.
Sure.
It goes crazy high, but it was
awesome.
fun.
I'm gonna say sure, right along with Brad. That sounds like
I get it. I understand what you're talking about.
All I know is that there was some high pitched parts in there. I was like, ooh, wow, they got that one, and I just thought it was cool. Because I listened to the Fantastic Four episode today. And I kind of was jumping back through a few others. I'm like, I got to see if they did this just for this one episode, if this was like a special thing, or if they changed it. And I was like, oh, it's the same one here. Oh, it's the same one here. And I went back I think the last 6 episodes. I was like, oh, this must be that's got to be their theme, their intro theme. So I was like, this is really cool.
It was like our second recording session. Our first recording session was that first episode, and then before we put it out, I put that theme together.
And you've been threatening to do an a cappella version of
Spider-Man.
the classic Spider-Man cartoon theme.
Zoobiza, zoobiza, zoobiza. Yeah, I just have to do the arrangement and actually sit down and do it.
Time.
You know,
That
that's the
sounds
hard
really
part
cool.
about anything is I have to sit down and do that.
Yeah.
I have lots of
Yeah.
plans.
Time is
Ideas
overrated.
are so easy. Ideas are so easy. Manifesting things into existence is a little harder.
It is. It is. I get that.
That it is.
Should we just play a small clip of that? The
Can
beginning
we?
up there.
Do you have it
Uh,
pulled up, or do I need to pull it up real quick? I can. It won't take me long.
Yeah, I mean, let's pull it up and have people hear
I mean-
what we're talking about.
I am absolutely okay with that because this is a really cool thing, and I really think more people should hear it. So
We're super proud of it.
you should be. You should be, absolutely. All right, so hold on a second here. I got to do the whole share a screen thing, which sometimes works.
The music nerd part of me is very, very excited about this.
You're also a music nerd. That's so
I
exciting.
am a music nerd. I am. My grandmother was an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. This is, I'll pull this up so everybody can see it. Here it is.
That's us.
And that's you guys. And I'm
love
going to play
seeing
this one because might not hear it because StreamYard's interesting. Okay, let's try this another way. Stop sharing.
I can
There.
bring it up on my iPhone.
I'm sure their standard of sound quality is higher than that.
Well, you would think so.
I have a feeling
Um,
that was exactly what Tim was going to do too.
Do you
Yeah,
have it
that's
as
exact-
a ringtone?
That's exactly exactly what I did do. Is pull up my phone because
Oh, Brad's got it queued, I think.
if you've got it, go ahead.
Do it.
All right, here we go. Boop, 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 boop.
Bum bum bottom 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 bum bum doobie doobie do 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 doobie doobie do 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 doobie doobie do 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 bottom bum bum doobie doobie do 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 doobie doobie do 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 doobie doobie do 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 bottom bottom bum bum bottom ba-da-da 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 ba-da-da.
That is awesome.
See right there at the end, that was the high part that I was talking about. That's
Yeah.
probably that C24-7 thing that she was talking about earlier. So,
Yeah.
or what C6, whatever.
She also got that nice little. Oh, I think it was when Wolverine pulls out his claws. The
Yeah,
part.
yeah,
Yeah, hit me right in the nostalgia. Oh,
yeah. She nailed it. That is awesome. It really is. So thank you, and thank you for pulling that out and saving our collective bacon because it was not going well over here. So, all right. So
It's been worse.
we've done worse. That's for sure. All right. So let's get into our game. It's not really a game. It's more of a discussion. So some nights we play games. Some nights we have discussions. Tonight's a discussion night.
it
So
could be
tonight,
you.
because we have the comic book couples counseling podcast dynamic duo here tonight, we thought we'd have a chat about what are the best comic book to screen adaptations. And then, of course, we have to, since we're talking about the one that we think is the best, we also have to think of one that's just awful, but we love it anyway. So one good one, one bad one, but we love them both. So since we have Brad and Lisa here and they are the comic book experts, we're going to start right off with them.
experts. Oh boy.
I threw the word expert out there. You're welcome.
Pressure.
All right.
So
Not that we're
is this like round robin style where we first everybody does their favorite, or do we say our
Yeah,
favorite
yeah,
and our least favorite in the same go?
well. Let's do favorites first, and then we'll go
Okay.
back through, and then we'll talk about the awful ones and reminisce and how awful they.
I think the
are,
awful ones are
lovely.
going to take longer.
I think so too. That's why I said we'll break them up.
Interesting. Okay, so is this my favorite one of all time? Probably not, but it might be my number 2, and it's the one I wanted to talk about the most. And I recently just rewatched it, and I adore it so much. And it is the 2012? It's the 2012 Judge Dredd movie, also known as just Dredd. directed by
Carl Urban, right?
Yeah. Carl Urban, directed
Carl
by Peter
Urban.
Travis, and produced and co-written by Alex Garland. I like this movie is a great action film. I think that it is a good representation of 2000 AD and the comic books of Judge Dredd, although it doesn't capture the totality of 2000 AD tonally wise. Like the tone of Dredd is pretty, like, serious might not be like the right word, but dry. Its comedy is there and it winks, but it's not as overt as 2000 AD comics can get.
Okay.
And then Carl Urban is just like, it's everything you wanted Judge Dredd to be when you did not get that Judge Dredd in the 1995 Sylvester Stallone film. He keeps the helmet on, and that's so important.
And he has the perfect half moon frown.
Yeah, like, and he tells so much story in that frown. It is an incredible performance, and the trapping the story to this one location, the peach trees, where they're having to kill their way to the top to get Mama. It's just an exhilarating experience. It's a nonstop experience, and we need more of those in comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that, and I'm pretty much anything pro non-Sylvester Stallone. So,
Yeah.
outside of Rocky, I really have a hard time with much of it.
Win me over at Carl Urban.
So,
I mean, I love Stallone. I've subjected Lisa to several Stallone movies recently, actually, but I also understand your point of view, and I would not argue.
Yeah. It's not that I hate him as an actor. I don't dislike him. I mean, it's not like he's Tom Cruise and he's god awful and should never be on camera. But there are certain roles that I have a hard time with him in. Like, I love him in the movie Oscar.
I love the movie Oscar.
It's one of my all-time favorite movies, and it's not a movie that I often think of when you go, "Hey, what's your favorite Stallone flick?" Most people aren't going to go, "Oh, it's Oscar." For me, it's Oscar.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick.
Yeah.
What I think makes Stallone so special and peculiar as an actor is he has no idea what people like about him. He goes, like, it's got to be the muscles, right? It's got to be the muscles. And no, friend, it's your charms and how you seem a little slow. Like, that's what we like. More of that, please.
Well, I actually think he's starting to understand that, and James Gunn certainly understands that. And casting him as the voice of King Shark in the Suicide Squad is brilliant.
I will give you that. Yes, it is. So,
but getting back to Dredd, just real quick, like, my favorite bit of comedy in that entire film is you go through that whole movie, and it is gnarly and it is violent. And it's upsetting at times. There's some really graphic and disturbing sequences in that movie. And Dredd survives it because that's what Dredd does. Dredd survives Mega City 1. And his, commanding officer comes up to him and says, like, well, how did it go? And he just goes, routine drug bust. Like, the whole movie for him was just his Tuesday. Like, for us, it's this great action film. And for him, it's Tuesday. Just a drug bust.
Yeah, nothing big.
I love that.
So good.
All right. So, Lisa, what's your favorite comic book adaptation?
I picked one that is so near and dear to my heart. It is the 2010 romantic comedy Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Ooh, that is
my pick.
I did. I'm so glad I was second because I was so relieved I was second because I knew that Brad wasn't going to pick it. So I'm like, phew. I love this movie. I love anything with a romantic bent. And if I'm encountering any kind of media, I'm going to turn it into a romance anyway. So they might as well just include it.
Sure.
And it is also a comedy and a musical. So it's all of the things I love in a film. And I think it's a great take on the original comic by Brian Lee O'Malley. It's actually not like a floppy comic. It comes from a 6-volume series that at first glance on the shelf looks more like a manga. And there is some manga influence. I always say it wrong. And then I get a look. There is some manga influence. It was inspired by a series called Ranma and a Half, and
Okay.
but so and it was kind of like a take on a Shogun style, but Brian Lee O'Malley had hardly read any, and so it departs from there fairly quickly. But it's charming, it's funny, and it's super Canadian and nostalgic.
It's very Canadian.
And
Very Canadian.
Heavily.
I think that Edgar Wright was the perfect director to adapt something that is so nostalgic and referential. It also references video games and things like that. And so Edgar Wright, in realizing it as a film, could take that one step further with the whole soundscape of video games. And then there's also the Toronto indie music scene is also folded into that. And so in bringing that to the screen, he uses Beck and metric and creates this amazing, grungy, irresistible soundtrack.
Yeah.
To me, I think that that's really what makes a really special adaptation of a comic, is that it's not like a perfect retelling of every minute plot point, but what it nails is the spirit of it.
Too often I watch a comic book movie and I go like, I love the comic. I think the comic should have just been the comic. Like the comic is perfect. But in this case, it feels like, Edgar Wright took the book and elevated it. And you realize that the book was a first draft for this film. Mm-hmm. And the film is like the completion of everything that Brian Lee O'Malley was trying to do.
Right. And it really comments on it as much as it elevates it. Like there are things that you can do in film that you can't do in a comic book, and I like that Edgar Wright really embraces that, like to complete the idea, to round out the idea.
No, I like that. That's I think, and that was going to be my pick. So I'll go ahead and
come up with something quick, because I squatted on it.
It's okay. I have extras written down just in case.
Cute.
It's not my pick.
But one of the things I wanted to comment on what were some of the things that you hit on. I love the fact that it's got the old arcade video game feel to some of the things that happen. I love the casting in this movie. Is impeccable. Chris Evans was a stellar choice. He's beautiful in that role. Brandon Roth, who I don't think enough people also really like.
He's great.
Is a great actor in my opinion.
Agreed.
And I think he does really good on that.
And he's dreamy.
So, and then Anna. So we're talking mainly comic books, graphic novels, things like that. Not so much of the Orphan Annie things, but we could make a stretch for it. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm here to talk about the Phantom. If we want to talk the Phantom, I can talk the Phantom.
But yeah, so for me, that was what kind of grabbed me with Scott Pilgrim, is that I felt like I was watching a comic book, in live action. And I felt like I was, or watching a graphic novel in live action, and that it was kind of unfolding in front of me. Because especially, when they get into the fights and, some of you get destroyed and the coins shoot everywhere. And then, and then there was the 1-up and all that stuff. And it was just so many cool things about that movie that made me go, oh, that's kind of, and it's one of those things that the more I watch it, the more I catch.
It was one of those movies too, that like, I'm not as big into comic books. Comic books were not as big of a thing for me, but then watching Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and then reading the comic books is a different take on things, but realizing how amazing they did instead of being disappointed.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you see that Edgar Wright did take specific panels and dialogue
and he
out
loved
of the book.
Comic.
Yes.
Like he clearly loved the comic. Yeah.
It was clearly a passion project, but
visually, I think that's it is just such a cool movie, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved that the first time I watched it. Was just how visually interesting it is.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Nick, do you have a backup pick, or do you need a minute to let Kathleen do some talking and you do some research?
So I do have a backup, and it is The Mask.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good choice.
I've never seen it.
What?
The Mask? I've never seen it.
All right, we're stopping
own
live
it.
show right here, and we're gonna watch.
Brad, bring
How have
it
you
up
been
on your
married
phone.
for 13 years and you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen all of the things. I know it's unbelievable.
I like the look of loss on Brad's face of what? You haven't?
I felt like we just watched it. Like I watched it like 6 months ago. You weren't there?
Nope.
Okay.
How did we get this far in our relationship without you watching The Mask? I think that's what that look was, and I love it.
They did a really good job. Like, I think Jim Carrey nailed it with doing The Mask, and I
He was
love
made for that role.
Yeah, I love like the whole cartoon style thing that they did with it too. Just kind of bringing some of those elements into the movie and how it's, I don't know, it was just a, like, even though you knew, okay, good guy, bad guy kind of storyline, but it was still, it's still entertaining to watch. Sometimes I still find myself singing the chick-a-boom, chick-a-boom.
Oh, yeah.
Cuban Pete, yeah.
Yeah.
They call me Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beat. Anyway,
Ooh, you
so,
also have a lovely voice.
oh,
You should hear him serenade tater tots.
yeah, there has to be a little more Guinness involved for that to happen, but so, but yeah, no, that's a good pick, Nick. I agree. That's a very, very good run.
What
Anything
I
else
love
you want to
about
add on that?
Well, I'm going to interrupt. That's what I do.
Yeah, please.
But what I love about that film, and what you were kind of alluding to, Nick, is Jim Carrey's, and through his performance, through the CGI as well, that character is all about his enthusiasm and love for like Tex Avery cartoons and Chuck Jones stuff, and how he weaponizes cartoons is both like ingenious and very clever, and it's choreographed really, really well, but it feels like a warm hug for all us kids who sat around the TV watching those tunes. Like, if you had The Mask, you would do that. I'd probably also add some Star Wars references, but like, I just think it's such an enthusiastic movie and a loving movie, and yeah, it's great. I've never read the comic though.
It's a good show. Anything else to add, Nick? Are you good there?
That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you, Forrest. All right, Kathleen, what's yours?
Anybody surprised? I adore Deadpool. The movie is fantastic. And number one reason why that movie is fantastic is because Ryan Reynolds brought so much. Sorry, Tim. He brought so much into that character. I mean, Deadpool he's such a dynamic character anyway, because of the fourth wall breaks and how real he is to you versus reading it. Because of the fourth wall breaks, it feels like you know him a little more. But then to go from comic book to screen and see that character that you love brought to life and so sassy. Like, I don't know how Ryan Reynolds fit that much sass into that tight of a suit. I mean,
I'm sure he'd be willing to tell you.
Probably. And I mean, as Lisa mentioned, anything with romance is going to make it better. And obviously Deadpool is a romantic story.
Yes.
It is. Even if he does kebab people. It's still a love story.
He does it out of love.
He does.
I have to say that Deadpool is the reason why I hate Wolverine X-Men Origins.
Oh yeah.
I was so excited to hear that Deadpool is going to be in that movie. And then that is one of the movies that I may have yelled at the screen about.
While in the movie theater?
While at the movie theater, it may have happened. Possibly. I can neither confirm nor deny. I can confirm, actually.
So bad.
I may have yelled something about sewing his mouth shut.
And being upset. It is such a terrible rendition of him. He needs his mouth. He's a merc with a mouth. What is going on here?
Right. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, I was happy with it until that part. I love the scene in that movie where they're standing in the elevator and he will not shut up and he's talking to the captain. It's your eyes. I love your eyes. Everybody told you how the eyes. And it's the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That is Deadpool. That is Wade Wilson. That is the way it's supposed to be. This is perfect. And then they sewed his mouth shut.
So
So very sad.
I will admit, I saw that movie before it came out. I saw that version that was released before the movies even released it, and things were not fully CGI'd yet.
Yeah.
So after seeing that, it was a phenomenal movie.
That makes sense.
Well, yeah, there's that. But yeah, the other reason why I didn't like X-Men Origins, and I'll say this real quick before I let Kathleen finish her spiel here about Deadpool. The other reason I didn't like it is the way that they flirted with Gambit, but didn't really do anything with Gambit. And I love Gambit. Growing up, he was one of my favorite comic book characters. I always just thought he was so cool, and to have them both in that same movie, I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Gambit and Deadpool are in the X-Men movie. This is going to be great. And then it sucked.
Where's our Gambit spin-off movie, or TV series?
Who knows?
Hasn't happened, but it needs to. I think it'd be really cool. There's a lot of stories there that could be told with Gambit. So
it'll happen. Like Channing Tatum was supposed to be Gambit, and then the Disney merger killed that. So I'm sure we're going to be getting some X-Men, some Merry Mutants soon, and the Raging Cajun will be one of them.
God, I hope so.
That'll be awesome.
I really do hope so. All right, so anything else to add about your Deadpool?
The only other thing that I absolutely loved about Deadpool, and I know this is a family-friendly show, I love the fact that they didn't family-friendly Deadpool. I love that they stuck to Deadpool. And yes, it was an R rating for a comic book, and that's not supposed to, but it worked. And then doing Once Upon a Deadpool to do the PG-13 version of it was also great. And the Princess Bride spinoff aspect of it was awesome.
Duct taping Fred Savage.
Fred Savage duct taped to a bed was just hilarious. But I love that they didn't give in to the pressure. Exactly, Anna. Yeah. I love that they didn't give in to the pressure of this has to be for kids, because not all comic books are for kids.
Right.
Adults like comic books too.
Very good. All right. So we've had Dredd.
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim, The Mask, Deadpool. I think those are all solid choices. And
how far down your list of?
Well, my top, I picked 4 just in case, because I was like, you know what, just in case there's going to be 5 of us, and I'll have a shot at getting one of these on. I'm very okay with this pick because I think it's really cool. Into the Spider-Verse from 2018.
Yeah.
So the reason I love that is just because it brings in so many different parts of the Spider-Man universe, of the multiverse, and I love the way that with the Miles Morales edition and bringing all that kind of together. And I thought it was really cool the way it was done. I kind of like Spider-Pig too. I mean, that's kind of a thing for me.
Spider-Pig. Sorry.
It's Spider-Ham.
Yes. Thank you. I knew Spider-Pig was wrong, and I was kind of looking at Brad's corner of the screen going, I'm waiting for him to correct me because I know it's wrong. But yeah, Spider-Ham. Thank you.
So good.
Done by John Mulaney. Fantastically by John Mulaney, by the way. Stand-up comedian from SNL. Great guy.
He's hilarious.
Oh, he's fantastic. But I really like that. I like the way that the story was done. I like the fact that they worked in the Peter Parker to Miles Morales transition there, and I don't know, just thought it was really cool.
I love how they were really going like, we want to bring the comic book to the screen. How can we create the sense of panels? How can we create the sense of like dynamic, the dynamic drawing and things like that. Right. So cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Really so inventive.
I mean, I feel like it has a lot in common with Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where, they were embracing everything that a film could be to replicate what it's like to watch an animated Spider-Man film, cartoon, whatever, and read a comic book
and turn a page.
and staples and all that stuff. And all like like the myriad of little hidden details throughout every frame. You can watch that film 100 times and catch something new. Bagel.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's one of those ones that I watched that just the other day, and I caught a few things that I had not caught before, and just even something as simple as how with everything with Miles transitioning into Spider-Man and how that how that all worked, and getting all that and the relationship between him and Parker and all those kind of things between the multiverse. And I honestly, I think I most related with old fat Peter Parker, and that made me feel good. So
true.
I call him COVID Parker. It's just we didn't know there was we didn't know there was a COVID Peter Parker needed to happen, back in 2018, and such a simpler time. So, but yeah,
we went places and saw people,
and we did the things, and we saw the peoples, but yeah. So for me, that's one of the better comic book adaptations, and
I actually haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's good.
You need watch it with your daughter. She'll love it. It's very good.
See, and it's funny is like I've never been a big Spider-Man fan. I don't have anything against Spider-Man, but it's never been like I have to watch Spider-Man.
No, I get that. And the great thing about Into the Spider-Verse is you don't have to. I don't think you have to be a Spider-Man fan to enjoy the movie. There's enough gags and things that are funny. Just with the way that the characters interact with each other, and some of the jokes that are told, I think that you can be a pedestrian movie watcher and still find it entertaining and enjoyable.
I think the only Spider-Man movie I watched was one of the Tobey Maguire.
Well, then I say cleanse your palate with Into the Spider-Verse.
I think it was chosen for a sleepover or something. I had no choice, and I'm like, oh, okay. I was.
The hub says you were.
I mean, you might have been sleeping, but
it's like Lisa watching The Mask with me. I know it happened.
So, John, I need clarification here. Was I pregnant or did we have a newborn? Because I don't remember.
Either way, that's not going to count. So, if you weren't actively participating in the movie watching experience. So, all right. So cool. Nick will be back in a moment. He's got something he's got to take care of. So we're just going to pretend that his screen isn't there for a moment.
He disappeared.
He's gone for a moment. He'll be back. All right. So cool. So that's the 5. And I think an honorable mention, I think anytime you talk comic book movies, and I know a lot of people bring this movie up, but it's brought up for a reason, and that's The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, just for Heath Ledger.
Yes.
So
that was my number 2 in case anybody stole Deadpool.
So yeah, that was my number 4 because I liked the more of the comic book aspects of my top 3, but the storytelling of Dark Knight and the playing out of the thing I like most about Heath Ledger's Joker is, I kind of, in my mind, it's most of what I remember. I compare it mostly to Hamill's Joker from the 1990s Batman animated series. It was the maniacal, the crazy, didn't really care what happened to anything else around him. He did what he did because he was going to do it. And so for me, that's why
pure chaos.
Yeah, the pure chaos. Absolutely. So
that is a very solid choice. I love that movie.
Yeah, I thought so.
Brad looks like he wants to argue.
I love The Dark Knight. I love The Dark Knight. I am one of those weird guys who likes Batman Begins more. But it's a me thing. It's a me thing, and I know that. What I like about Batman Begins is how it just so thoroughly takes you through the process of Bruce Wayne becoming the Bat, and it's something that had never been done before, really, in the films or really the comic books either.
Right.
You had to piece his origin together through stories here and there, and they did that with Batman Begins, and I will never forget my first viewing experience of that movie. And I was in a crowd at the Philadelphia Comic-Con at the IMAX right outside the convention center. And it was all comic book geeks. And we were just losing our minds watching Batman Begins. And so it just remains one of my favorites because of that.
I can completely appreciate that. I think Batman Begins is a phenomenal movie. Actually, I think all the Christopher Nolan Batman movies are very good.
I
think
it too.
I think the third one kind of lost it a little bit, but it's still not a bad movie. I love watching those movies, and sitting down and watching the trilogy. So I don't have a problem with any one of those being a pick. So yeah, I love the storytelling of Batman Begins and setting it up. You're right. Very well done.
So as you saw the comment on the screen too, it wasn't my fault. We have a toddler. We had a baby. No wonder I don't remember it.
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count. We won't hold it against you.
I don't remember anything for like the first 6 months of her life. I mean, come on, people.
All right, so let's move on to movies that may not have been as good, but we like them anyway. And if you have a reason why you didn't like the film, or why somebody might have a problem with the film, go ahead and feel free to call that out. Go ahead, Brad.
Okay, so I started with Dredd, and I am going to stick with Dredd and go back to 1995 and say Judge Dredd, which is an atrocious movie in a lot of ways. We talked about the Stallone of it all. He wears the helmet for like 5 minutes, and then he takes it off, and he's just chuntering "I am the law" and screaming around for the rest of the movie. And he's not a good Dredd. He's a terrible Dredd. But when he's wearing the helmet, he looks good. I like it. It's a Versace costume. Versace did the costume
rad
for Judge Dredd, and it looks amazing. It is so rad. And when I was saying how Dredd doesn't really capture the world of 2000 AD and the bizarreness and the weirdness of 2000 AD in Mega City 1, Judge Dredd really does. And they throw so much money into this set. It's a crazy huge set on Mega City 1. And then they populate it with the weirdest characters. Mean Machine and the Angel family, the cannibal family that's outside in the Cursed Earth. Rico, played by Armando Sante, Stallone's co-star from, what was that 80s terrible follow-up to Rocky where he's like the wrestlers, the three brothers?
Yeah,
I want to say
can
it's
look
called
it up.
Cry Freedom, but that's not it. Anyway, Stallone partners back up with Armando Sante. They're playing brothers. Stallone and Asante are wearing blue contact lenses through the entire movie. It's the most unsettling stare you've ever gotten from Stallone.
That's how you know they're brothers.
And that's how you know they're brothers, because they both have these very false-looking blue eyeballs. And yes,
it was called Paradise Alley.
Paradise Alley. Terrible movie also, but DeSante and Stallone are in that. Okay.
Playing brothers.
And what's the Saturday Night Live guy who's in Judge Dredd, the sidekick? Rob Schneider?
Yes.
Rob Schneider? There we go. Rob Schneider as the comic relief in Judge Dredd. Embarrassing. It's awful. However, Lisa and I did a double feature of Dredd and Judge Dredd not too long ago, and I enjoyed Judge Dredd in a way that I hadn't done in a long time, because of all its problems, but also just recognizing the production design, the costumes, and some of those 2000 AD mythology bits that they managed to get in there. And I was like, hey, you know what? This is terrible, but I'm having a good time. So, Judge Dredd.
All right. Yeah, my problem with Judge Dredd, other than Stallone, is that I continuously confuse Judge Dredd with Demolition Man.
Yeah, Demolition Man's better though, right?
Yeah,
yeah, it is. I think it is. I love Demolition Man, like legit love, and I'll fight for it.
I only played the pinball, so
it's a good pinball.
I always, for whatever reason, I had to look this up real quick while you were even talking, Brad, to make sure that the three seashells was from Demolition Man and not Judge Dredd. I'm like, because seriously, those movies came out so close to one another, only a couple years apart, that I legit kind of get them, stuck in my head. And yeah, John, it looks like you have the same problem I do. Three seashells, that's with Demolition Man.
It's what we use in our household. We use the three seashells in the bathroom.
Correct.
That's what we use. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It makes a cleanup snap.
It's very
handy.
Clean, very clean.
Very clean process. All right. Excellent. Lisa, what's your not so good, but you like it anyway?
It's a new to me film, though it did come out in 2007. It's the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. And the Fantastic Four have been beaten up
Taking
by
it off
the
your list too,
cinematic
Jen?
universe.
Take that one off my list.
There's yet to be an adaptation of the Fantastic Four that truly celebrates them as a family, as a dedicated, their philanthropy, their sense of adventure. But what I love about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer is it does touch on what I think is a theme throughout the Fantastic Four, no matter what series you're reading, is that balance of family life and work. Who doesn't relate to that? Poor Sue, she just wants to have one thing that is normal. She wants to have her dream wedding. But ever since she and Reed traveled to outer space, her life has taken a turn for, let's say, the weird. So she opens this movie wanting Reed to want to have her dream wedding. And throughout the film, there are, of course, interruptions. There is the Silver Surfer. Everywhere he's been, planets have been destroyed, right? But in Sue being the key to discovering the humanity in the Silver Surfer, she also realizes what value she brings as an individual to the superhero universe. And I think that she gets this sense of pride to bringing that feminine touch to the superhero world. And I know that is not the most evolved female superhero story, but I still find it really touching. And I really do think that it's in the spirit of the Fantastic Four.
Especially those early issues.
It was dismissed as a little cheesy, I think, by some. And especially watching it now, a lot of the effects are not as impressive. It's actually insane how far we've come since 1997 when it comes to
2007.
2007. Oh, wow. Well, I guess it's
then.
not that far then. I'm less impressed.
It's still, no, I think it's impressive.
I'm less impressed.
We've come a long way since 2007. But I still love the makeup effect for The Thing. I love the fact that they went practical. I think it adds a lot to the performance of
Ben Grimm.
Not just Ben Grimm, but everybody around Ben Grimm. The fact that they're interacting with something tactical. If I was to have one main complaint about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, would be the introduction of Galactus.
Thank you.
It's such like a comic book movie that when you are anticipating seeing Galactus, you want to see the guy. You know what I mean?
Not a cloud.
Instead they flinch and they go for the cloud. And I go like, you've gone this far. Just commit.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
But maybe the fact that, Chris Evans didn't really ignite as Johnny Storm, maybe that is why we have him as our Captain America, or one of our Captain Americas. So I will forever be grateful that this wasn't a tremendous success. But it's still near and dear to my heart.
No, I'm good with that. That was, for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned, was going to be the same reasons why I picked that to be mine. But I have a backup, so we're good.
Do you want to take your turn next so that your backup doesn't get lost?
No, I feel pretty safe with mine. My backup, I'm pretty good with it. So, Nick, go ahead. What's the one that you'd like the least, or a bad one that you still like? I'll get it right one of these times.
Elektra.
Oh.
I don't know what it is about it. It was just one of those that I felt like there could have been more to it, but it was just good enough to keep my interest, but it was like, have I watched it since it came out? Nope.
That's so funny that you say that, because like I had completely blocked it out of my memory, and as soon as you said it, it returned to me like a fever dream. Like, oh my gosh, that was reality. That was not, that was not a bit of beef.
And it was played by Jennifer Garner, which
Is the reason why you liked it. But yeah, go ahead, continue.
That's the reason most people liked it.
I don't like. I remember it, but I don't remember it. So now I'm like, I might have to go watch it again just so I remember it.
I just pretend that it's just another episode of Alias.
I think it's better than the Daredevil movie.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking forward to Bullseye a little more, I think.
Yeah.
Well, since that movie's brought up, we can go ahead and talk about it because that's my backup. So, all right. So, I actually really enjoy the movie Daredevil for some reason. It is awful. The dialogue is awful. The play out between Elektra and Daredevil is awful. Colin Farrell in that movie is god awful as Bullseye. He is wretched, horrible. He's so good in so many movies and so many other roles, and he flatlines so hard as Bullseye. He just, that's rough. Yeah, I'm just, I can't even go into the amount of which I do not like Colin Farrell as Bullseye. However, I did not think that Ben Affleck was bad as the devil. I also thought that if you're going to watch it, you need to watch the director's cut. It is a little bit better. It does not take out some of the issues that are plaguing the movie, but it does help set up a few of the scenes a little bit better, and it does help. It does stretch the storyline a little bit to where it's a little bit more tolerable, and it's a little more real in some of the aspects of how the story is played out and touched on. I have always and I've always read people say, "Oh, it's a horrible movie," and this and that, and I'm like, I don't know. And then there's me over in the corner going, "But I like it. It's not that bad." But yeah, so if they could have gotten Colin Farrell to not channel his inner 1960s Cesar Romero, I think we may have had a decent bad guy there. But I also think that they tried squeezing too much in by putting Bullseye in the movie. By throwing in another big bad, because there was already Kingpin. You didn't need Kingpin and Bullseye. You could have done that movie without Bullseye, and you could take Colin Farrell out of that movie, except for the killing of Elektra in that movie, and it would still be it would still be the same movie.
I feel like this is your mission. You should take this on. You should do the re-edit of Daredevil and just take Bullseye out, and then everybody will realize what a passable film this is.
Hold on.
Can you do that on VidAngel?
Nick, seeing how you are my video editor, that's your job. So,
see, true filmmaker. Look at you delegate.
you stick to your strengths, But yeah, so for me, that's Daredevil. I think it's a very good movie. It shows premise. There's a promise to the premise is what I was trying to say. And they kind of stick to how he got his powers, how that all came to be. I like that aspect of it. I like I really thought it was cool how they showed him using his powers with the cane and how he tapped things and, the sonar type thing that he has going on. It's not better than the Netflix series. That's for sure.
No.
That's pretty awesome in my opinion. But yeah, that's me. That's where I'm at.
All right.
Kathleen, go ahead with yours.
So mine has a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that matters to anybody, because usually the lower the number on Rotten Tomatoes, the better the movie really is in my book. It is 1995's Batman Forever.
Oh.
Right? It is a horrible movie, but we love it.
So much.
So much. Jim Carrey as Riddler is amazing. I love that. But the movie itself is
So corny.
rough.
So corny.
It is so corny. It is so over the top. It is ridiculous.
On the plus side, Batman didn't have nipples, so it's a win.
Exactly. There were no bat nipples. So
No, but nips.
but
That's my edit. My Batman Forever, my re-edit does have nipples in it.
We're
Oh,
we're pro bat nipples on Comic Book Couples Counseling.
I like the one with Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze.
Yeah,
the one with
Batman and
Arnold
Robin.
Schwarzenegger.
That's
Yeah,
Batman and Robin. Yeah,
See,
you
and
like the bat
I-
nipples. Okay.
I love those movies. I love the early 90s Batman movies because I was a small child, and that was, other than like the Batman animated series, it's the only time he likes Jim Carrey as a comedic actor. I get that. But other than like the Batman animated series, that was my introduction to Batman, was this over-the-top, corny ridiculousness. I would blame it on drinking, but I'm sure it's the toddler's fault. His autocorrect issues tonight. But it is one of those, it's near and dear to your heart because it's hilarious and ridiculous and over the top and just so many things that you do and don't want Batman to be. I honestly hate Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, but that's just me. I'm not a huge Tommy Lee
I
Jones
see
fan
Brad
in
in the corner
general,
like,
no.
I love him.
I love him. I love him.
But
So yeah, I don't have a problem with Batman Forever. I do have a problem with Batman and Robin. That's in one of my not redeemable comic book movies.
Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Oh god, that movie,
It's so bad.
so god awful bad. Yeah, Batgirl. Oof. No, thank you.
I think my absolute favorite thing about these movies, though, is in my high school, there was a class as film is lit. So film is literature. And they did all three of those movies. They did the early 90s trio and then had to write essays on why that was good film is literature. It's like, yeah, it was great. It was great. I had an open period and I went into that classroom with hey, can I hang out in here? And the teacher's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, what are you guys watching? Batman Forever. I'm like, oh, yay. I stay here now.
This is my class. All right. So we've only got a couple minutes left before we got to jump off here. So I want to take a moment and say thank you to everybody for their picks. You guys did really well with this. And I had fun with this. This was an enjoyable conversation. Anytime we get to talk nerd is always a good hour well spent. But Brad and Lisa, could you tell our fine folks where they can find out more about Comic Book Couples Counseling?
Yes, absolutely. You can find us at comicbookcouplescounseling.com. You can find the podcast on your favorite podcast app or find us at comicbookcouplescounseling.com. And you can find us on Twitter at CBCC Podcast. You can find my personal Twitter account at MouthDork. And Lisa?
I'm at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter and Instagram.
Do you have anything else you'd like to plug?
Do I?
You did do like this. You're doing a little project.
I just submitted my page to Weapon Ech, spelled weapon spelled the regular way, but instead of Weapon X, it's Weapon Ech, and it is kind of a parody pastiche homage to the amazing artist Barry Windsor Smith. And the page I got to do was Logan facing down a Siberian tiger. But because I had to put that, wife dork spin on it, it is Logan in short shorts facing down a pug, and he's so excited. And he's wearing a t-shirt that shows a little midriff and says, hugs, not hugs. Because like myself, not a hugger.
And that's going to be in print. It's like the first art that Lisa's done where it's going to be in print in this anthology called Weapon Ek.
Yes,
And,
it's a
excited.
very
awesome.
small press. Yeah. You can find out more about it from 100% Comics. And that's at 100
The number.
P. Yeah, 100 the number. 100 P Comics on Twitter.
Awesome.
That's excellent. All right, guys. Yeah, please go check out Comic Book Couples Counseling. These guys are fantastic. I love what you guys are doing. And like I said, to start off the show, this is something that can go for a long, long time. You guys have so much information to pull from. And as we change through eras, this is something you can kind of go back and relook at stuff and, and reanalyze your analysis with new information and stuff. So it's kind of a cool concept. So, and
Thank you.
Most of all, thank you for coming here tonight and sharing
Thank
with
you
us.
guys.
This was the literal best. Thank you for having us. We had a blast.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, very good. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for Funny Science Fiction. On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.